Hey, it's Ozzy Lopez with Keller Williams Realty. And in this video, we're going to be addressing a really good question I got from a friend, which they were saying, hey, I might be having to move out of state. And if I do, I'll have to sell my home pretty quickly. What do I have to do now to start preparing in case I get that notice, right? That I have to move out of state. So in this video, we're going to go over that. So there's about 4 pointers that I want to go over, which is number one, the appraisal. I do get this often actually where people are saying, should I appraise it just to kind of know what it's worth? I don't recommend that. Appraising your home too early in the process could be 90-95% of the time a waste of money. Why? Because an appraisal costs around 300, 500, 600, depending on the size of the home and the age. It can cost anywhere around there. So let's say 500 bucks. The reason why it could be a waste of money is because when you appraise it, it's a snapshot of in time of what it's worth. Meaning if you do an appraisal on a certain day and you let a couple weeks pass by, that appraisal is already updated, especially in this hot market. In just 3 days or 7 days, that appraisal is old news. That's how fast the market's moving right now. So I do not recommend you get it appraised. As a matter of fact, that's what real estate agents are for. We know exactly how appraisers think, what appraisers look for, how they calculate everything. So we are able to get you the exact information that appraisers pretty much do. So here's what I recommend. If you ever want to know what your home is worth, just say, hey, Ozzy, what's my home? What's my home worth? Here's my address. Let me know. And we'll probably in about a day or two, we'll give you what our findings look like. And now you'll know exactly what your home is worth. And we'll give you a snapshot view as well as to what they're worth now. Now, of course, we cannot predict the future, right? So if you're like, okay, that's what it's worth now, what would it be worth in a month or two? That we don't know. Anything can happen then. So we'll just have to redo the same process. Let's say you have to move closer to family, or you're getting job promotion. That's why you're moving state to state or something like that. Well, if that notification comes 2 months later, don't worry. We'll do the same thing as your real estate agent. We'll do the same thing 2, 3, 4 months down the road, or a couple weeks down the road. We'll do the same thing and reanalyze the market to see if your home is still worth the same amount or if it's changed. But like I said, in this market, it's changing by the week, if not almost by the day. All right, so now that you know that you don't need to appraise the home, now that you know that you can get the same result from your real estate agent, just go ahead and shoot us a message and we'll definitely give you that information. We just basically need your address and maybe a few little details. By the way, so what are appraisers needed for then? Hey, why do they exist? Real easy. The number one biggest, not employer, but like user of appraisers are banks. Banks are the ones that need appraisers more than anything because they give out mortgages, right? And when they give out mortgages, they want to know what they're giving mortgages out on, which is property, and they need to know how much that property's worth. So how do banks know how much properties are worth? Easy. They hire appraisers. It's banks that need appraisers. Homeowners like yourselves don't really need them. You can get the same result with a real estate agent. So homeowners, you just need a real estate agent. All right, next topic, which is my advice, my second advice that I want to go over in this video, which is what I do recommend you doing is sprucing up the property, spiffy it up, organize it, declutter it, repaint it, remodel it. And I'm just throwing out random verbs out there, random things to do. Why? Because it depends. It's a house by house scenario that it depends on. Your house might be really pristine. You might have kept it up really well that you might not need to do a lot to it. But if that's not you, then it's time to maybe start to catch up on all of those projects. If there was that leaky thing over there that's leaking or that's kind of peeling or something, time to start bringing that up to a nice maintenance. I recommend that for 2 reasons. Number one, if you do end up getting notified that you got to move out, your home will be ready to be put on the market and wow the next buyer. and wow the next buyer, right? That's what we want to do. Is we want to declutter, we want to organize, we want to stage decorate. We want to get the home as beautiful as possible, so when that buyer comes through, they'll say, oh my gosh, honey, I love this home. That's what's going to get you the most money. So start doing that now. And here's the thing. If you don't end up moving, you've just made your lovely home even lovelier, right? So it's really not a lose-lose. You're just winning there either or, if you keep the property or if you end up selling it. So before I move on to my third piece of advice, I will say this. Since it depends on a house by house cases on what needs to be done, this is something that I offer to all my clients, friends, and family. Go ahead and grab your phone and do a walkthrough of your entire home and take pictures of every room, every part of the home, even the outside. Take pictures and email them or text them to me and just say, hey OZZY, what would you recommend I do to actually make this home a wow home? And I'll give you my pointers, I'll give you my advice. No cost, no commitment, no nothing. It's what I do for a living. I know exactly what needs to be done in a home to get you the most money. So I don't mind sharing that information. Just like I said, grab your phone, do a walkthrough of the entire property, shoot me those photos, and I'll give you some really good advice on what to do and what not to do. I also don't want you spending time and money on things that are not going to make you pretty much an ROI, a return on your investment. Now, as far as the third thing. So the third thing I do recommend, and this only applies to if there is more than one owner involved. So if you're the only owner, then you can kind of skip this section or tune out and then wait for the fourth piece of advice. But if you do have a co-owner, if there's somebody else that owns the property, like a family member, a spouse, anything like that, you need to start getting them ready for the sale. Because when you do put the property on the market and you do need to sell it, they're going to have to be on board with everything. They're going to have to sign off on the sale, maybe sign in front of a notary. So they're going to have to be on board with the decision to sell. Okay. Now, when have I seen this go wrong? Like, let's say on a divorce situation where they're no longer involved with that partner, and maybe they're not in agreeing to sell. That's something you got to straighten out right off the bat, right? Or unfortunately, if somebody's passed, so if you bought the property with a family member and that other family member has passed away, then in that scenario you might need to get the paperwork for that person that's passed away ready to show that they're no longer living with us in this world, right? So this only applies to, of course, if you're not the single owner, then this advice is for you. So we already talked about getting the home. We already talked about getting the price of the home and how to get that, how to get an idea as to how much it's worth. That's the first thing we went over. We already talked about how to get the home ready, and we already talked about how to get the owners ready. And now, on the fourth and final piece of advice is to set up a strategy session with your agent. It doesn't hurt to set up a 30-minute Zoom meeting, or even at the office. We can meet at the office, but of course it's easier through Zoom or through Microsoft Teams or any of the video chat, where we'll outline a strategy session that's customized to your scenario, your house, your situation, and your time frames. So that way, when you're notified that you do have to sell and you do have to move to another state, you know exactly what to do and how to hit the ground running, because you and your agent have already outlined a game plan, right? It's the same thing like when you go to a doctor and you're like, hey doctor, I want to achieve this amount of health, like a recovery, right? I want to get better. What do I got to do? Your doctor will see what your situation is. What are you allergic to? What's your weight? What's your age? They'll check you out completely, and they'll be like, this is what you got to do to get better. And same thing with your accountant. I want to do this. I want to do that. Let me see your financials, and then from there they'll tell you how to save the most money with taxes and all of that stuff. So it's the same thing with your real estate agent, my friends. Talk to your real estate agent, say, hey OZZY, when can we meet? We'll set up oops, let me hang that up. We'll set up I thought I hung that up. Right there. Now I did. We'll set up a strategy session so that you know exactly what you need to do, so that when you do get the piece of news, all you got to do is just hit the ground running with our game plan, with our strategies that we outlined. And if you don't end up selling, then all you did is just got a little bit smarter with real estate, so that if ever you do need to do anything in the future or decide to maybe buy more homes and investment properties, you now just became a little bit smarter in the real estate world. And by the way, here's a little PS tip before I end this video. I do recommend everybody buy more real estate property, because you already know that the more real estate you own, the better you'll be 20, 30, 40 years down the road, right? Because you're gonna have some nice paid off properties, and if you're renting them out, you're gonna have that money coming in like clockwork every single month. So that's my little PS. One last tip. Hopefully this video served you well. If you have any other questions, let me know. Thank you so much. Bye-bye.